Recording.
Yes.
Okay, good. And how about Gabrielle? Can you hear me?
I don't understand.
Okay, and Madison, can you hear me? Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Hopefully, everyone can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Okay, excellent. This is a pretty good turnout for our first Zoom. We'll be on here for a half hour or so, probably today. Not very long. I won't keep you on here very long. There are some slides I want to go over, but I also would like some interaction. I'm not sure how good our connections are because you're kind of breaking up to me. I'm not sure if I'm coming through clearly on your end, although it looks like we got 6 participants here. Frida, have you joined us? Can you hear me, Frida?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can certainly hear you. Come in nice, yeah, very, very nice and clear. Madison? Okay, and Gabrielle, can you hear me? Gabrielle's got it. Looks like she's muted. Trying to unmute, and looks like she's got it on. All right. Well, I will do the best I can interacting. That's one of the things I like about the Zoom room, what I like to call the Zoom room. I'll go through some slides here for you, and I'll give you a chance as we get near the end to ask questions either orally or electronically, if you will, or through typing. See, the chat is, well, you guys know how to use the chat, and I'll check on that from time to time. So here I am on a beautiful upstairs office. You can see the background. Not my house, but I'm at a library. I'm at the library at Palm Beach Atlantic University, and using their library to do my Zoom room here. So welcome. I'm very happy to have everybody here. I've read your introductions, and I've read your comments on plagiarism and the importance of avoiding plagiarism, so I appreciate that. And just a couple of discussion questions. I haven't checked in a while. I was on late last night and a little bit this morning. So we have quite a few people still are going to post discussion questions as we move through the week. It's already Wednesday, so I would just suggest that you don't let the week get away from you, because it's great to be an online adult learner. It gives you a lot of freedom and opportunity to spend time with family and not miss dinner. On the other hand, that means you have to go in a little bit later to go in to address the things that need to be done in the course room. For me, when I was a student, that meant getting up earlier. And I was never one to be an early riser, but I knew that if I was going to pursue an education as an adult, which I did, that I was going to have to find some way to make it work. And so that means I had to change something. For me, it was pretty dramatic to start waking up as early as I did, because I was never an early riser, but that's what happened. So we're going to go ahead and go forward. And I would do, like I said, I do want to hit on as many slides as I can. I was just scrolling through them in chapter 3, looking at some of the things that I wanted to talk about. And one of the things I like about the Zoom room, the Class Live to Interact, it gives yet another opportunity to integrate theory with the application or the real world things that happen to us. So, and that's a big tenet, if you will, of adult learning and adult education. So, obviously, I'm counting on you to go through much of this, and I'm going to talk about as much as I possibly can as well. I do want to thank you for being on here, and we'll go ahead and go forward. So, and I did just mention this course gives us a chance, and all courses do, as adults, integrate theory and application. And reading some of your introductions and some of the things that you want to do, and career-wise and personally. I think someone alluded to being a therapist or a counselor, which this can certainly add to your knowledge in that. So what this is going to do, this class does, is we look at the human being through the entire life development, and we really start from the very beginning, from conception. And you've seen that in the PowerPoints, in the videos, and in your reading, I'm sure. So, we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. Because it is important, but we won't spend a lot of time on that because most people in this course aren't going to be a neonatician or a pediatrician, neonatologist, I should say. So. But one of the things that we look at in terms of conception is looking at even before the person there. That person has two parents. What were the backgrounds of those parents, socially, economically, and health-wise, that have now made a new human being? Because those things can and do impact that human being in sometimes very positive ways, sometimes ways that are not as positive. And what I will, there's a million things I will tell you, I'd like to tell you, but I'm going to say this about that. As we go through and write our autobiographies, if you will, for our own human development, there are some people that you're going to come across, and probably a better way to say it is we've all done this from time to time. Sort of said, well, I'm not a very fast runner because neither of my parents were athletic, or I'm not a very good swimmer because neither of my parents swam, or I'm not very good with money because neither of my parents struggled their entire life financially. Whatever we come from, we are not bound to continue in that. It may take a little more effort for some people than for other people, but no one is ever bound by where they started out in life. And you do come across people, I'm sure none of us, but they go around their entire life every day, kind of roll with me. I'm never going to be worth anything, or I don't get any breaks because I come from a quote unquote bad family, or my parents got divorced, my parents were always fighting, and my parents always drank. That two things. Not denying that has an impact on the individual, on the child and young adult growing up, or even as an adult. It absolutely does. But it is not something that you are bound to keep going if you choose to get out of it. So I just wanted to sort of point that out sort of globally. So that's one reason that we kind of start from conception. That's one of the pluses I see about covering the entire spectrum of human development from the very beginning, from conception. And we're going to go on, obviously, this, in week 6, we're going to finally, get to the end of life situations, preparing for death and death and everything in between. So this is a really comprehensive course. We're going to get through all of this in 6 weeks, which is obviously not easy to do. But one of the things that I say is, these courses are 6 weeks. It doesn't mean that they're abbreviated, made shorter and easier for you. That's not the case. They are accelerated, which means we're going to cover as much in this course within 6 weeks as we would in an entire 14 or 16 week semester in the more traditional college course. Having said that, even in a 16 or 14 or 16 week college course, we wouldn't cover everything in human development. We might cover the entire spectrum, but we're not going to go as deep in everything as possible. You just can't do it. And that's the same with a full sort of semester-long course. You're not going to come out of this course being a certified developmental psychologist, but you're going to come out with a very good understanding of the entire gamut of human development. So I'm going to just stop for 1 second and I'm going to give you a question to ponder on, and I'm going to ask you to respond if you can. Some of you are muted. I think you've muted yourselves, but I do want to hear back from you as much as I can. So let me go over to managing participants, and I'll go right down the list here of the way I see it here. So in like 1 or 2 sentences, think about this for a second. This is going to be your question. In 1 or 2 sentences, what is your sort of prior knowledge as it relates to human development? And maybe there's not much there, but what have you, if I, before this course, came up to you and says, tell me something that you know about the overall lifespan of human beings, what would you say? Let's start with Rashina. Rashina, how would you respond to that question?
So I would say that your genetics come from your family history, so that means parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on down the family tree or up the family tree. And your environment helps you.
Okay, good, very good. That's all. Just want to get something. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, and then I have a number here. It's 1913, and I won't give everything out, although we can all see it, can't we? 1913683. I'm not sure who that is, but if you could respond with an answer to that same question, that would be great. And if you can't, oh, you're on the phone. That's why I see. That's why that is. So, can you hear me? The connection's not good. Hopefully you can hear me. The connection is not good. So we're gonna give you a second there, and maybe we'll come back if we have time.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, it's Madison.
Hi, Madison.
Hey. What's the question about what we think about human development? And
yeah, but before you took this course, before you even read anything, if someone came up to you on the street and says, tell me something you know, a little bit about what you know about the overall lifespan of people, their human development. Did you hear?
In the womb, and as far as development, there's usually a line that we go through and milestones that we hit, but every situation is different. And I kind of liked what Rashina said. I do think environment changes can change the way we're developed, but also biology.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, Madison, that's...
Okay,
Madison,
I'm sorry?
No, that's good. I got that, and I think you were agreeing with Rashina, and I think that's right. Like, we're impacted by both. I'm going to move on. Your connection is not that great, so we're kind of not getting a lot of your wisdom there. I'm sorry about that. It's okay, but I'm going to go on down, and we'll try and get to some more folks here. So how about Cecile? Can you hear me, Cecile? Can you hear me, Cecile? Okay. It might be that Cecile came in. Okay, let's see.
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, good. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Cecile, the connection is not real good. We're going to go to Frida. Frida, what would you say to that question?
Hi. Well, I guess my understanding of development has focused more on the last 6 years since my first daughter was in really psychological development of children, and how you grew up with certain notions about how children are supposed to act and behave, and then you realize that it's all a process that is related to how the brain works and develops, and the way certain parts of the brain simply aren't developed until you reach a certain age. And that's what explains a lot of the behavior of babies, children, and even adults. So that is, I guess, my understanding of my.
Good. That's great. Thank you, Frida. These are all good answers. Like I said, it's pinning you down to like 2 or 3 sentences here. It's hard to get all.
Prior knowledge of development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the brain develops along, as the years go on. So we can't expect kids to know everything. That's kind of what you're alluding to, I think, a little bit. So that's an excellent point. So how about Gabrielle? What would you say to that, Gabrielle?
I would say I agree with what everybody said. From birth to basically death, just an environment of, you're just basically an example of your environment, and you learn most of your things from your parents. And as you get older, you develop the things that parents didn't teach you from your own personal experience when you have your own kids and things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Thank you all. Thank you all very, very much for sharing that out. And I think these are good answers. And again, it's a very small piece of it all, but it gives an idea of, is it, what we can't expect from 5-year-olds because their brain just is not developed, that we are a product of both our environment as well as our biology, our genes, our heredity. And we're going to talk more about that several times through the course. So all very, very good. I want to touch on just a couple of points here. And I thank you all for your participation. One real quick thing. When I first started studying psychology and human development way, many years ago, they didn't talk a whole lot about human reflexes, or shouldn't say reflexes. What's the word I'm looking for here? Instincts. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. You know how like birds have an instinct to fly south when it gets cold, and different animals have different instincts. Bears, hibernate in the winter and things like that. And then they kind of said, human beings, the original thinking was that we didn't have really any instincts. We had to rely on our parents or older people for in our whole caregiving. And then people started saying, well, sucking is an instinct, because, if we didn't know what to do, if infants didn't know what to do when they were feeding as infants, from the mother, they wouldn't necessarily suck. That has to be, you don't teach them to suck. They know that automatically when they're hungry. They do that. So that became noted as an instinct. And then later on, rooting. And, many of you know now, when I first heard it in a classroom many years ago, I didn't know, what rooting was. But if you touch a baby on his cheek or her cheek, they kind of go that way. Like if they're looking for food, so they call that rooting. And there are others that are in the PowerPoint that I'm going to let you guys go over. Grasping and those kind of things, because now we do realize that babies do have instincts. And again, this was not taught in my first college course on developmental psychology. So we're always learning things. We're going to talk a little bit more probably in the course about classical conditioning and operant conditioning. You're going to learn a lot more about classical conditioning and operant conditioning in many other psychology classes that I'm sure that you'll take. I'm not sure how much time I really want to spend on here, given that we don't have a whole lot of time left. So I just, classical conditioning, it's involuntary responses that are conditioned to new stimuli. We think of this, you've probably heard of the experiment or the training of a Russian psychologist, Pavlov, Ivan Pavlov, back in the 1800s. He's the guy who could ring a bell and the dogs would salivate, because he would ring a bell right before he fed them. And he did that so many times that the dogs started to identify the bell, the sound of the bell, the ringing of the bell with food, and that they know that if they heard the bell ring, that they were going to get food, so that would cause salivation. Typically, if we smell food, we might salivate, or if we, see food being cooked or start thinking, we might salivate then, human beings or dogs. But that is what we think of typically when we think of classical conditioning. Operant conditioning, I like the example I have here is good, but I think one of the best examples of operant conditioning that resonates with people is a vending machine. We see those still around now, but when I was a kid, if you had like a dime, you could go buy a soda, what we used to call a pop. And so that, you get conditioned to, if I put this silver thing in here and push this button, I'm going to get something sweet, right? And that's because you're operating on something. We'll talk more about that. I don't want to spend too much time with that. There's a lot here on sleeping. I think you should pay attention to that. Babies do sleep a lot, and they sleep a lot more sound. As we get older, we lose that ability to get that deep sleep. One of the things I wanted to talk about here was crying. All babies cry across all cultures and all over the world. And babies cry due to pain or discomfort or both. And some crying, like we said, is universal. And I wanted to point out, it says here on the slide, parents can distinguish between cries of hunger, anger, and pain. And maybe don't realize it, but some are better at it than others. But parents can sort of tell, and I'll give you an example. When I graduated with my master's degree, my family came, and we were, other friends of mine, graduates, were there with me. And it was a very big auditorium, and the school was graduating, undergrad and grad. And my friends who were sitting near me, who were graduating as well, my classmates, they all sort of found their family. And hey, there's my dad, or there's my wife. And my wife and both my children came along with my in-laws, my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and some other people, my cousins and everything. And I couldn't find my family. And I'm sitting there, and they keep asking, did you see them yet? And they all found theirs. And then, one person came up and spoke, another came up and spoke. And when I got my master's, the speaker was Billy Graham, which was a real blessing to hear him speak, Billy Graham. And at the end of his speech, I heard way, way far away up in the upper deck of this auditorium, probably 5,000 people, there are 6,000 people. My daughter cried, and I recognized that cry, and I told everyone around me, I said, oh, my family's somewhere up there, because I hear my daughter crying, and that's the cry she has when she just woke up from a nap, and she cried because she was hungry or something like that, and she had just woken up. And I said, I'm sure of it. And later on, when I caught with my family after we dismissed everything like that, they said, well, your daughter Cecilia, she slept through Billy Graham's entire speech, and she woke up right when he finished. And I said, I know, because I heard her cry. So parents can, distinguish between, they know their babies cry, and they know if it's a cry of hunger or pain or whatever it may be. And I always like to share that story. Okay, those are the main things I wanted to touch on. I wanted to hear back from you, but I definitely appreciate. This is recorded, by the way. I record them every week, so if you can't join in, but I'm so grateful that you joined in. Hopefully next time we'll have a little bit better connection, and we can have a little bit more interaction, some give and take. But I wanted to let you know that I'm here for you. My job, although I have to grade papers and assign grades and be evaluative in that way, that's part of my job. I want you to know that I'm supporting you, and I want you to succeed. There is no question about it. If you're trying and you're really doing your best, in my experience, I've been in this profession for quite some time now. If you're willing to do the work, you should be okay. Based on some of the interactions and introductions I read, it seems that this is the first college course for some of you, maybe the second or not. So they're shutting me off there. So oh, great. So we can keep going. Anyway, it seems that this may be some of you. This might be the first course for some of you. So have faith. Do the best you can. My advice and counsel to you is just, by all means, don't let it get away from you. What I mean by that is this: it's great, as we talked about in the introductions and things, to be an online learner because it gives you a lot of flexibility. However, also there's a trap that you'll fall into if you are not careful. That is, I can do it later, and you end up getting busy because adults, especially adult learners, are very busy. And then, and unfortunately, we tend to put other people's needs in front of our own and prioritize our day based on other people's needs rather than a mixture of their needs and our needs. If you get behind like 1 week, 2 weeks, that's about all it is, and you can't catch up because it's a 6-week course. We're moving very fast. So my suggestion is, if you possibly can, stay a little bit ahead of the curve, a little bit ahead in the reading and things like that. And if you can do that, you should most likely be okay. If you have any questions for me, very important, don't hesitate to ask or point anything out. My high recommendation, you have my cell phone number and you also have my email. However, the best and most efficient way to communicate is through the message tab in this course. Emails tend to get lost, especially, I don't know you. Many of you have different kind of email names. It might be your name. I may or may not right away recognize that, but some people have email addresses that aren't their name, and I kind of don't think about it, and it goes down the line there. Text messages, sometimes it's a little too long. The questions are to put in a text, and if I can go in the message tab and answer your questions, I have I have access to the whole course right there, so I can go look something up for you. So that is the most efficient way. I check it at least once a day, usually multiple times a day. So there's that. But I'm here for you. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. And if it's a question, by the way, if it's a question about technology, like if you can't see something or you don't know how to navigate the course in some fashion, I might be able to help, but probably I would refer to, I'm sure that you all went to an orientation to learn how to use this. They showed you how to do that and how to submit your assignments and things like that. If there's any issues with that, you might be better off going to the student success people, because they know technology. They know if there's something going on. I'm not that good at those kind of things. I'm good at the core curriculum here. Having said that, the second video on the Genome Project with the 3D animation and things like that, that's not working. If you look in the announcement tab, which is something, every time you go into the course, you should go to the announcement tab first. I put an alternative video or a replacement video there. We're going to use that video. Central Christian College does a great job with their curriculum. The problem is YouTube sometimes changes things, and we don't have control over that. So we might have a really good video that's really perfect for this course, and if someone takes it down, that's unfortunate. But I did go in and put a replacement video so you can look at that. Okay, that's all I'm going to go for tonight. I've ran a lot by you here in the last 5 minutes or so. Any pertinent questions, or are we ready to go?
I have a question about the discussion boards responses. They
Uh-huh.
are, this week we have a 2-part question. How long are you looking for those to be? Knowing it has to be within that box.
Sure, it's a good question. I don't mean to be evasive, but what I would say to you is this: make them substantive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't really quantify it for you the way I think that would give you.
No, I understand. Make it more, have more quality in it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It doesn't. I'm not looking for something that's 5 or 6 pages in a discussion. That's not what that is for. Your class. Think about this. I think that it's not an easy question to answer, but think about you are a student who's going to be reading other people's posts.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you like to get out of their posts?
Right.
You don't want to read 2 pages, right? Because you don't have time for all that. But you want it to be really good and concise.
Okay.
But substantive. Does that help you?
Yeah.
And I'll also say this: if there's an issue that we missed something, then I'm going to give you feedback on that. I'm not going to beat you down for that. I'll say, listen, we need to add a little bit more to this or whatever. I'll do that with all the students. Okay.
Okay. And that's what I was going to ask too. Since this is my 3rd course with the college, and have experience with different teaching styles. Do
Mm-hmm.
you respond or give feedback after grading each week on
Yes.
assignment?
Within the grade.
Right.
Like in the comments, like, okay,
Yeah.
so on the discussion, you get up to 25 points. So if I give you 25 points, I probably won't say very much.
Right.
I may or may not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're getting down less 20 or less, then there's going to be a lot more in there to give you direction.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, wanting to know if we will get direction throughout
Absolutely.
as things are being graded.
Absolutely. You absolutely will.
And then as far as the discussion board responses, I know the post has to be done by Thursday. Are you looking for is it 3 responses to 3 how do you?
Respond to at least 2 other students.
Okay. Are you looking for those to be done by Thursday as well, or week's end?
I wish that it was my rule. The college gives you up until Sunday. The
Mm-hmm.
issue with that is, if you go on Sunday, at 11:30,
Right.
it's a little tough. So get those in as soon as you can.
Okay.
But you won't be penalized if they come in Saturday night or Sunday or even Sunday night. You won't lose points for that. It just doesn't add to the discussion as much as we'd like.
I like to kind of go back in and out because different people come in. Not everyone gets theirs, or they get it done by Thursday, but take a moment to process it. So if we are able to post one Thursday, one Friday, one Saturday.
You definitely are. And that, Rashina, that actually is the best model is to go in multiple times to see maybe somebody responded to something you said.
Right.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay. That's excellent points.
Okay. Those were my questions. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Are the assignments also due each week by Thursday?
No, the apply or the if you have
Right, the apply.
No, they're due Sunday at 11:59 p.m.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely. I will say this: for the apply assignments that are written assignments, if you don't rush it, but if they're turned in, a lot of times I'll go in on a Sunday. I have a little time on Sunday morning or afternoon. I'll try and grade those. My grading, like the direction is, they like me to have everything graded, but between 2 days and 4 days after the due date. So the due date's actually Monday, if you will, or Sunday night at midnight. So you figure Monday morning. So by Tuesday or Thursday, maybe Friday the latest, I should have those grades back to you. But sometimes if someone turns in an apply assignment on a Saturday night, I get it back to them on Sunday before the week's even over because I have that time. But that's just if it works out. Don't rush that. Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Good. If it's okay, I'll just have a quick prayer, and then we will go on our merry ways. Father in heaven, I just thank you for this opportunity to use technology to honor and glorify you in a way that is best intended. And I praise you. I thank you for this time we had. I thank you for our health. I pray for each of these students that were here, as well as those who were not able to make it. I pray that you will guide them and comfort them. This can be a challenge, but I pray that, Father, you will guide their steps and bless their efforts. And I pray for their families as well, that this is kind of a family journey if they're married or have kids, and many of these students do, and you know their situation, Father, like you know us all by the hairs on our head. So I pray, Father, that you will bless them according to your will, that we all may fulfill the purpose that you have for us in this life. And I pray this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you in the course room.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Night, night, everybody.